Oh look, it's Monday. Another recap. The season still has not started, so I don't really have any tips, but I'll come out with this. Let's call it a non-game tip. Don't be afraid to play how you like. Play the classes you enjoy, play the builds you enjoy. Upgrade things that you think look promising, and don't upgrade things that you don't think are promising. If you want your gearing decisions to be backed up by numbers, use raid bots. Mistakes are not the end of the world, and you'll always have another chance next week. That is, unless you intend on killing Mythic Sarkareth within 2 months. Then you might want to aggressively min-max a bit more. But otherwise, you really shouldn't min-max yourself to the bone. It's exhausting and might cause burnout. Of course, don't let me tell you what to do. You can do what you want, but I think some people need to hear this. There is actually a considerable amount of balance changes over the past week. They plan on buffing Arcane Mage, that's always great. They fixed a few bugs pertaining to the increase in stamina, reducing the absorb shields of several enemies, which frankly isn't too relevant when the new patch actually starts. We won't be seeing Razageth or Miladrusa anytime soon. But let's talk about the really juicy tuning changes. Havoc and Vengeance Demon Hunter both have received a reasonable amount of buffs in single target, buffing a lot of their spammable abilities, such as Havoc's Melee, Demon's Bite, Demon Blades, Fellblade, and Vengeance, Shear, Fracture, Soul Carver. I think these are great. Demon Hunters have been falling a bit behind the curve, and I think this should help them a little bit. Most druids received minor buffs here and there. Mistweaver got a pitiful buff. Holy Paladin got a very minor buff as well. Sub-Rogue's abilities no longer buffs non-class abilities, so that's a bit lame, but they get a 4% damage buff to compensate. These are nice. They're really ramping up the tuning, it seems, on this last week before the patch. That's the right approach, because I think once the patch starts, they'll be a little bit less heavy-handed with their tuning. Several class trinkets from the raid have been nerfed, no longer scaling with haste. I think that's fine. I think Trinkets scaling with haste is kind of a mistake, making classes that significantly prefer haste to be way stronger. Especially with the power of these trinkets, these Niltharion trinkets are really powerful. In the right classes. They are still aggressively tuning the Season 2 Mythic Plus lineup. Significant damage reduction here, significant damage buffs there. I can't really comment on any of it. We can only really determine if these tunings are appropriate once we actually do the dungeons. At an appropriate level. One that does have me scratching my head is a change to an Old Man boss. It's the third boss, Sentinel Talondras. It seems that her cast time on her ultimate was removed from 5 seconds to 0, and I think that's a mistake. If this is true, this makes the fight significantly harder in my opinion, and I'm not sure I support Blizzard in this direction. But honestly, the rest of the tuning is quite reasonable, but I hope they do revert the Talondras nerf. And the last for important tuning, embellishments now benefit from versatility. This makes embellishments that do damage, that have numbers associated with them, fairly better on classes that stack high verse. The usual suspects like Rogue or Monk. Just a small buff for those classes. I think it's fair. Speaking of embellishments, with the nerf to Lariat and the buffs to the other embellishments, a lot of guides seem to recommend different embellishments, which I think is fantastic. I love seeing diversity in my embellishments, and I hope we see more new embellishments in future patches. It'll be interesting to see how Blizzard develops this embellishment system. It's a pretty short episode this week, not too much to talk about, no tips to give. I've been spending some time outside of WoW. You won't believe this, but playing modded Minecraft. I'm playing through a mod pack called FTB Skies. It's reasonably fun, and I think I'll try and stick it out to the end. There's really not much reason to run keys in terms of player power. I'm basically capped out on the gear I can reasonably achieve. I've already had my fill of M+ throughout the season. I've done a lot of keys you will not believe. And I've had my fun with the old dungeons. I can't wait to see the new dungeons though. I'm still slightly concerned about the tuning on some of the bosses, but I am cautiously optimistic. It's not fair to be so critical of a system that I haven't even tried. I think it's fair to give Blizzard the benefit of doubt when it comes to the tuning and mechanics of the new dungeons. I am fairly excited to get back on that grind wheel, getting gear and beating new keys. I've got a group that I enjoy running with, that I'm going to run with quite often next season, so I'm really looking forward to that. This past week I didn't make 2 video guides as I hoped. I did finish the Brackenhide Hollow guide, but I did get slightly busy over the week. I still do plan on making more guides. The next guide is Niltharion's Lair, and I do plan on releasing it within 24 hours, and the next after that will be Vortex Pinnacle. You might be wondering why I skipped Halls of Infusion, and that's because I didn't get footage of it. I ran every single dungeon on the PTR except for Halls of Infusion. So unfortunately, that one will have to wait until after the season starts. That's all I have to share this week. I hope this short weekly recap episode was somewhat enjoyable. I'll be back next week with hopefully more updates and some tips. If you enjoyed this, leave a like or subscribe, and I'll see you in my next weekly recap.